Hey dudes, it's Larold, and I've been running an off-meta farm strat over the last weekend or so, and having a lot of success with it. Also, it's fun. So as always, I wanted to share what I'm doing with other players because I think there's some really good value to be had here. So I'm running Expedition. I know there's a lot of money to be made with Ritual and Breach right now, but they are both expensive if you really min-max them. I would argue that this is the best farm strat for new players, which is kind of ironic because Expedition is the most complex of the 4 league mechanics, but it's also the cheapest to set up and run efficiently. You can get the strategy up and running for like 10 exalts or less. That's kind of how it goes with PoE sometimes. You have to prove you can be smart before you can afford to be dumb. The key with Expedition is setting it up correctly, because the difference between a properly set up Expedition and a poorly set up Expedition is like 1,000% more loot without exaggeration. Maybe more than that, maybe more like 2,000% more drops for monsters. You should be able to see that in my footage here. Some of this will be very juicy, properly set up maps, and some of this will be like maps where I'm just pathing to a tower and the setup is not complete at all. There just was an Expedition there. And so the difference in the amount of monsters and drops is going to be pretty enormous. Again, we're talking like 10 to 1, if not more. Alright, so let's start with why Expedition is good. I think the main reason that it is good is it spawns a bunch of rare monsters all in one place. This means no running around like with Breach, no need for a build that moves fast, although it's never bad to move fast, never bad to be able to clear stuff off screen. You don't have to. And also, you don't have to run around picking up individual Breach splinters or Simulacrum splinters or anything like that, right? Everything's gathered in one spot, you smash it down, it drops the stuff, you pick it all up, and then you leave. It also works really well on most maps. I would argue it is a lot less sensitive of a league mechanic to bad map layouts than Ritual or Breach. Also, the unique tablet is really good. I'm showing that off here, Forgotten by Time. And it's also really cheap. It's like 5 exalts, 1 chaos, maybe 2 chaos, 10 exalts, whatever. But it's really, really cheap to buy this unique tablet, and you don't actually need a ton of them in order to make this work. It's also very strong. It gives you the built-in runic monsters are duplicated bonus, which is great, and it cuts their life in half, which is, I don't care about that, but it does make it so that all of these sort of modifiers that might make monsters tankier, as long as it doesn't make them, or as long as they aren't literally immune to all of your damage, they basically just don't exist at all. So it cuts, I would say, like a solid third of the monster modifiers. The downside ones from reliquaries are just completely eliminated from the game, which is not bad either. In terms of the value of the currencies that drop from Expedition, most of the profits are going to come from logbooks. As you can see, I've accumulated something like 95 logbooks here, and then I have filled this tab up with Expedition currency several times and sold it all off, and usually each time that I sell it all off, it's obviously I'm filling more logbooks in here, some of which I have already sold as well. But every time I sell off all of this currency, it's 1,000 exalts, 800, 600, so on. So while some of these currencies, specifically the Gwynin ones, the Broken Circle artifacts, are worth very little, most of the rest of them are worth anywhere from half to a quarter of an exalt each, and given that you can very reasonably get like 25 of these to drop in a single Expedition, if not more, I think that's a pretty decent haul. 12 to 15 exalts just out of raw, immediately liquidatable currency with Alva is pretty good. Also, exotic coinage are worth more than half of an exalt each, and I've had plenty of Expeditions where I pick up 10 of these things. So again, we're talking 12 exalts worth of this currency and potentially another 10 or 12 exalts worth of Black Scythe and Sun artifacts. Pretty good for being so cheap to invest. You could set up 60 maps for the price of like 10 exalts and then make a profit of about 20, 30 exalts per map. I feel like that's pretty solid. On top of that, I also feel like I average about a logbook per Expedition, I would say. RNG can kind of come and go in bunches. Sometimes I'll get 3 in a single map, and then none for the next 2 maps. It's a bit like that. Olroth is also by far the easiest of the 4 pinnacle content encounters to complete, at least in my experience. I didn't die to him a single time in this league, whereas I kind of had to grind it out a bit on Breaches, and then Ritual wasn't so bad, but like literally 0 deaths to Olroth, never actually even came close. Just make sure that you have Thawing Charm because he will try to freeze you, but other than that, pretty easy guy. So unlocking all 8 of the Atlas passive points for Expedition is also pretty easy. Certainly I feel that it's a lot easier than the other 4 mechanics, at least in my opinion. Also, there is a nerf coming to the difficulty spikes of Expedition. I don't know exactly what it is yet. It'll probably be here in the next couple of days, but there's a very real possibility that this strategy is going to go from already pretty easy and profitable to even easier and probably still just as profitable within the next couple of days. So the logbooks, like I said, are probably the most consistent profit that I am able to pull out of this as a strategy, and these things sell in bulk for somewhere in the range of like 12 to 17 exalts a piece, so like something like 7 to 8, maybe 7 to 9 if you really want to just move them very quickly per divine. That's pretty good. You know, you think about like just in terms of logbook profits and literally nothing else, you're going to make a divine like every, let's say, 8 maps. I feel like that's really good compared to the rate at which raw divines actually drop. So this is the Atlas passive tree that I'm going with, and I will link to this in the description of this video. This is kind of an extension of the very pack size heavy Atlas passive tree setup that we put out a video on last week. You know, we're taking literally every single one of these small, the 10 packs, 10 small passive points that grant pack size around the passive tree, taking everything that gives us more rare monsters in the maps and more magic monsters too. Actually, I actually think they're kind of undervalued. And then I am still taking Grueling Journey and Unstable Energies. I have taken those instead of just like the 2 points into Shrines, you know, get a little bit of extra map mod effect, but I'm not going out of my way to pick up all the small passive explicit Waystone mod effect points around the tree. You know, you could do that instead of this ring of like magic monster stuff. You could take some of these Waystone effect ones if you want to get a little bit more value out of the prefixes on your Waystones, but I'm really not doing that. I'm still just kind of sticking with the same setup as before, you know, doing a lot with precursor tablets. So we're taking all of the nodes that would affect those, doing anything that'll get us more monsters into the maps, because pack size has a pretty significant positive impact on Expedition, and you can really see it in some of the maps where you're not set up at all, right, and you maybe only have 10, 30, let's say 30% pack size, you know, the pack size you have from the passive tree and nothing else. The expeditions can be quite small for maps where you have pack size as a prefix, and you have some pack size from towers, and you have the pack size from the tree, and you're looking at like 90 to 100% increased pack size. You can really see the number of monsters that are spawned in the expeditions is like just enormous compared to what it was in the non-juicy setups. So this is a standard passive tree. In terms of the expedition tree that I've been running, I really like Extreme Archaeology in PoE 1. I hate it in PoE 2. I think, at least with the way it works and with the scaling that it has, the size that it has, I really do not like it at all in PoE 2. I think you leave so much meat left on the bone. It's like taking one bite out of a hot wing and being like, oh yeah, man, I really cleaned up. You know, that ain't no good for me. So I'm taking Disturbed Rest for more monster markers and Detailed Records for more logbooks, you know, both absolute must-have small passives or notable passives here. And then the other two that I'm taking are Time Detonations for more artifacts, really not that big of a deal, but then Legendary Battles gives more exotic coinage and more rare expedition monsters, huge value. This is doubling down on both of the things that we want out of our expeditions, you know, which is more currency and more monsters to drop more currency. So hypothetically, you could drop this branch and take the lower branch, Weight of History and Unearthed Anomalies, if you wanted to do a lot more with reliquaries or remnants, I guess they're called. I think that after the patch, if the difficulty of remnants, especially if the difficulty gets reduced, and then also the reward on them gets increased, that I think that dropping this branch up here with Time Detonations and Legendary Battles and taking Weight of History and Unearthed Anomalies may be a really good idea. Right now, having played around with it, this lower branch is way harder than the stuff up top. So I'm not gonna recommend it. I have played around with it. It could be more rewarding if you set up your tablets a bit differently. I'll kind of cover that in a second when I get to tablets, but for now, top branch, consider going bottom branch if the patch changes things around. All right, so that's the passive tree. Now let's take a look at tablets. So prefixes on tablets are all the same regardless of what type of tablet you're using, and really what we're wanting to do on the Atlas, I have one area where I'm still kind of setting up, and one area where I have like kind of already come through and cleaned up. You can see over here, I have this enormous, beautiful valley where I had all these overlapping towers, just massive overlap of towers right in this area here. Gorgeous. And so what I would want to do in this area is basically for all of the areas where towers kind of overlap with each other, like in this area here, I would want to have at least one unique tablet affecting all of those maps, and then one irradiated tablet as well to give +1 to the zone level of pretty much all of the maps that are in that area. Because it's kind of a weird thing that GGG has done with towers, where because the tablets, if you're doing a tier 15 map that's got 6 modifiers and you're able to get 3 tablets in there and, you know, double the amount of maps affected by the tablets, you're basically going to hit about 30 to 35 maps with each tablet. There's usually only about 25 to 40 maps in the range of each tower, so you're pretty much just going to hit every single map with each tablet. I don't think that is the approach for like effective, efficient juicing of maps is to do like Ritual and Breach and Delirium and Expedition and Bossing. Like, I think the idea still is pick a thing and focus on it, which means you're going to be slamming like 90 maps worth of Expedition tablets into a lot of your towers, but they can only hit, you know, there's only like 35 maps to hit. So it's a little weird, but I think that is still the better approach because you're getting so much more value on Expedition in all of those maps. I think that is the right way to go. That is what I've been doing, and that has been working out for me a lot better than like some of these areas. Like over here, I was playing around with trying to do like 5 things at a time. Stupid. All of the maps took forever and they weren't rewarding. Bad idea. So I think, you know, pick 1 or 2 mechanics, really hone in on them, and that's what you're looking to do, right? So if I were trying to juice up this area, or as I'm doing over here, I have like these 2 towers, and then I have these 2, one here and one here, that I'm trying to really like overlap. I would put like a unique tablet in this tower right here, so it could hit everything, and then also an irradiated tablet. Sure, why not? And then like Expedition on everything around. I think that's really the approach that I'm looking to do, is kind of find an area that's in the middle, irradiate and unique there, Expedition as well for the third one, and then just Expedition, like triple Expedition for all the areas around, to really try and min-max the value of all the maps in that zone. So what we're looking for in terms of prefixes on our tablets is pretty much the standard stuff, like quantity and rarity are obviously very good. Pack size is also really, really good with Expedition. So pack size, I think normally is really not that amazing of a tablet prefix, but I think in this case, it's great. Rare monsters, also okay. I think magic gold, you know, experience gain, I think those are all, I mean, they're obviously not good if you're trying to find more stuff. I actually think rare monsters is kind of a little bit weaker in this setup as well. I think pack size and quantity are really going to be your 2 best tablet prefix options. In terms of like precursor tablets, you know, you can get whatever. Like if you can get rare monsters, have a chance to have an extra mod as one of the suffixes for your irradiated tablets, that's always great. You know, otherwise it kind of doesn't matter. In terms of the Expedition suffixes, I've played around with pretty much all of them. I think if you were to respec your tree and go for that kind of lower branch, then I think this one right here, Expeditions have an extra remnant, and also this one here, increased effective remnants. I think both of those synergize beautifully with that lower branch of notables. But because we're not taking that, I think that the best approach is actually just to go for like more explosive radius, this bonus right here. If you can get like 2 or 3 of these affecting all of the maps in your area that you're farming in, this makes this circle much, much, much larger. Like the difference is pretty significant. You're able to hit the majority of the stuff in the Expedition, and that really helps a lot. I think one point of explosive placement range can help too. Sometimes there can be just kind of some weird pathing situations, and then anything extra that you can do into runic monster markers and quantity of logbooks. Both of those are great, and they are kind of like force multipliers with each other. You know, 10% more monsters is good, 10% more logbooks is good, but 10% more monsters and 10% more logbooks is more than 10% more logbooks, because you're getting multiplicative scaling there. Also, you know, more rare Expedition monsters, that's good too. So just in terms of like rating all of these or ranking all of these, what I would want in prefixes is quantity, pack size, and then rarity. That is basically the order, and then rare monsters would be 4th. For me. And then in terms of suffixes, I think I really want to get about 3 explosive radius suffixes on the tablets in the area that I'm farming in, and then like 1 explosive placement range, at least, 2 is also fine. And then all the logbooks and monster markers that I can get. And then, any rare expedition monster markers also is good. I would say the biggest thing here is that like pack size scaling really is amazing on your maps as well. This is something you're going to want to look for on your map prefixes, which I do have the map prefixes pulled up here in PoEDB. It's the usual stuff, right? All the suffixes are bad. They help with map sustain, waystones, blah, blah, blah. But, whatever. Quantity and rarity, obviously good. Rarity, obviously good. Pack size, I think, surprisingly better than number of rare monsters. In this case, I think, I would go like quantity, rarity, and pack size as my preferred 3 prefixes for expedition farming. A really easy way to make your maps a little more juicy, a little easier, make it a little easier to roll them, is just to buy these Omens of Sinistral Alchemy off of the, I was going to say auction house, if only, off of the Alva house. You buy these, you right click them, then you alch a white map, and you just hope it doesn't roll like temp chains or whatever. And it didn't. That's actually an absolutely sick map that I've rolled here. Yeah, quantity, rarity, and monster packs. That's fantastic. Incredible, right? It knew I was recording, it turned on the streamer client for a second. If you want to really push this to the absolute maximum, you can use either, I believe it's Distilled Guilt, although now I'm going to double check. Yep, Distilled Guilt will give you pack size. It'll give you 8% pack size per Distilled Emotion. That's pretty good. You can also use Distilled Paranoia. This is just generally very good for, I don't think it'll have as much of an impact on the expedition. It might literally have none, but it'll obviously 45% extra rare monsters. This is going to be great in the map, so you are still going to run the map, so that's also pretty good too. Really, either way can work. I think Distilled Guilt is probably worse, but it is also, it's like significantly cheaper. It's like 1/8 or 1/9 the cost of doing Distilled Paranoia, so good cheapo option as well. All right, so now I'm just going to talk about what I do while I'm in the maps, while I'm doing an expedition. The main thing I'm looking for as soon as I walk up to the expedition, clear out everything around it so I don't get killed trying to set it up. And then I just try to hit as many runic monster markers throughout the expedition as I possibly can. I also want to hit as many rare and magic chest markers along the way as possible too. The yellow chest markers, that like yellow swirly sign sticking up, those are great. Those things have like very, very high rarity modifiers on them. I've gotten divines out of them. I've gotten so many logbooks and, like Exalted and Chaos Orbs and stuff as well out of those too. Also some pretty nice like high tier items, high tier rare. So very, very good to hit all the yellow chest markers you can. Other than that, you want to try to get good remnants and really just focus on getting them early on in the explosion chain because they apply to every explosion after. Including the one that hit them, but also then all the ones after. So if you hit like a really good remnant at the end of the explosion chain, it won't apply to all the ones that came before. All right, so here are the remnants that I'm looking for in order. 1, runic monsters are duplicated. This is something I would only go for if I didn't already have the unique tablet because it doesn't work twice. It doesn't quadruplicate them. That would be sick. Doesn't work. So if you have the tablet in place, totally ignore that. It's fine. It's very rare, but it is insanely, like, freakishly good if you don't have the tablet already in place. Monsters drop extra logbooks. That one's great. Monster pack size. Monsters have increased drop quantity. Both your item quantity, all great. More rare monsters. That's pretty good. Increased monster item rarity. Also pretty good. You might get some divines out of that. Some chaos orbs at the very least. And then I would say basically all the same bonuses, but for chests, quantity, rarity, that kind of thing. Then there are some bonuses for like increased XP, artifact drops, and like magic monsters, and those are all generally pretty bad by comparison, so I'm not going out of my way to get those. You can, but I don't. It's important to remember that the remnants don't actually do anything on their own. They just modify the monsters and then like the drops from the monsters or the chests. So, if you have the choice of taking like a pretty good remnant and no monster markers and no chests alongside it, or just getting like a monster marker and chest kind of at the end of your chain, you always want to go for the monster markers and the chests, because those are where the rewards actually come from. All right, so that is the strat. I am really enjoying it a lot. Like I said earlier, it really feels like the natural extension of the pack size juicing strategy that we put up a video about a week ago. I really like the unique tablets as well. They're such a fun concept. I'm really looking forward to playing with all of the rest of them. Alright, that's it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and you want to see more like it, and if you want to support us even further, consider becoming a channel member. Thanks for watching, and have fun digging in the dirt. Bye.